everyone. Welcome to the next episode here with the Table Ministry Podcast. I am TJ.
I'm James.
We should sometimes mix it up and see if people pay attention. But anyway, hey, welcome. Glad you guys are here. This is our fourth episode. This is actually episode 7. But this is our fourth episode within this kind of mini-series looking at specifically behavior.
And the motives of behavior.
And the motives of behavior. So when we talk about all on the table, we want every student to feel like they have a seat at the table. We see in 2 Samuel 9, David and Mephibosheth, him saying, you will always have a seat at the king's table. And just the power of that. And that when we look at the gospel, when we look at the church, when we look at God's heart, he wants every individual to have a seat at the table. And so specifically, we talk about these conversations around students with maybe that has special needs. Maybe they have autism, developmental, physical disabilities. Maybe they have food allergies. Maybe they have ADHD, whatever it is. Or maybe a lot of this stuff is even transferable
ADHD
just to students.
Right here.
Lactose intolerant. That's not it. I just don't eat cheese. But well, I do. But then there's bad things that happen. But I think this is the lovely conversations we have, right? But specifically, we're talking about the behaviors. A lot of times, I know for me, I'm guilty. When I see a behavior, I look at it and go, fix it. But this is really being able to help us understand the why behind it. And so we've been looking at these, kind of this little diagram here. When we see something that causes the behavior, something that causes the environment, it stimulates some sort of behavior, right?
Yep.
Some reaction, something, an action,
Yep.
words, whatever that may be. And then in those, it's either a negative behavior that needs to be punished, and not necessarily punished. What was the word we were using?
Redirect.
Yeah. Instead of like a timeout, you're in punishment. That it's more of a
Redirecting to decrease the behavior.
Yep.
So,
and then sometimes when we see a positive behavior, that's the ones that we want to reinforce. Okay, and because those are the behaviors we want to increase.
Exactly.
Yep. Maybe they're contributing in a small group. Maybe they are. They're not escaping conversations, or they're just engaging. We want to reinforce that. So,
Exactly.
Yep. So that's what we're talking about. So here you go. Just in case you want to note taker, you want to see it. There's another one. So today's the last one, and this one we are talking about
automatic reinforcement.
Okay. What in the world does that mean?
So this, I don't know. When I first was studying this, A, it was the hardest one to remember, and B, I thought it was the hardest one to understand. But as I delved into it, I think there's a lot of specific examples that you can think of this, and it's a little bit easier to understand.
Okay.
So automatic reinforcement, one of the examples I was just talking to you about is the runner's high. So when you're going and you're running for a mile, a lot of people
They like that
high at the end, and it's legitimately just a high from running. It's not the positive praise from the running that they get from others. It's legitimately that feeling of that runner's high. So there's an automatic reinforcement to running. Very, very basic need would be like water as an example. So we're thirsty. An automatic reinforcement would be drinking that water. Immediately takes out that thirsty.
Yep.
So we're reinforced by drinking the water.
Okay.
So I think those are two really clear examples of how we see how automatic reinforcement works with behavior.
Okay.
Do you have any questions yet?
Nothing right now that's come to mind. I'm like, oh, now this makes sense. I'm sitting here and I'm going, what are the things that I do that automatically reinforce good things for me? So I was doing a little introspective.
So one thing, it's a little bit tricky to look at because a lot of like when we see it in autism, for example, we might see head banging. And so it's difficult for us to understand, well, at least for me, I should speak for me, how head banging can be reinforcement to them. But something about that head banging feels automatically reinforcing. So it's acknowledging that behavior is reinforcing to them.
Maybe the feelings that they're feeling from the contact.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's whatever that contact is feeling. And a lot of kids with autism have low pain tolerance, or sorry, the other way around. So they don't feel pain as much as like you and I would.
Okay.
But it all just depends on the individual kid and how they sense pain.
Okay.
But so that can be very, very reinforcing to them. It can be,
Soothing,
rocking chairs.
It's that rhythm.
Exactly. So we're looking at how this behavior plays out in small groups.
Any places where it may, like the cause, making them feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And just like we learned in the last one, that sometimes when they feel uncomfortable, they want to escape it. So when they feel something uncomfortable, they want attention. Sometimes when they feel uncomfortable, they need something. Mom, grandma, phone, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
This is, I feel uncomfortable, so I need to do something that's going to reinforce me that I know I'm going to get good. I know I'm going to get something that's going to make me feel good.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And so they're looking for that that feeling of reinforcement. There's a lot of examples of this. I mean, even in typical kids, you'll see kids with nail biting habits or chewing on pencils or so it's that automatic.
When you said that, I think of like maybe in a high stress situation like a test. Kid feels uncomfortable, they feel stressed, and you see the kids that like bite on the pencils, they bite on the pens, even though subconsciously they would never see them like at a Texas Roadhouse or something, just sitting there gnawing on a pen. But that situation made them uncomfortable, and they didn't know what to do and how to react, and so their behavior was this reinforcement of something.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, I think we're beginning to understand at least on a very basic level of what this automatic reinforcement is. And that's great because it is to me, it's the most difficult motive to understand.
Okay.
But when we're talking about this, we're talking about tools that we can use within small groups to make these kids feel more comfortable and give them something reinforcing instead of something that might be distracting to others.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So when we're talking about this, when we're looking at this, you're kind of more looking over here of within the reinforcement, or maybe even maybe at times kind of that.
I am,
redirect.
and this actually so a lot of this actually can be both as well.
Okay.
We've talked about how different strategies can both decrease and increase. So, for example, if your bad habit is nail biting, well, for someone we might give them a stress ball because it's hard to hold a ball and bite your fingernails at the same time. You literally can't do both at the exact same time. So we're still giving them something to get the stress out, but now they can't do whatever behavior is distracting to the group. So again, I go back to headbanging. If a kid is experiencing a lot of rocking or headbanging in group, what can we do to give them a tool that A, they can be more comfortable, B, they're still getting some sensory through them, because a lot of it is sensory related. Even for typical kids, we want to feel something. And how does this look in small groups?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things I suggested to TJ while we were discussing different techniques we could use is getting basically fidget spinners.
Yep.
But we got a couple different types.
Yeah.
But basically what this does is it allows kids to feel more comfortable with something in their hands, but still engage with their ears to whatever's being heard.
And feel different things. Like as I've looked at those, like the little cubes we have, they have all different. Every side of that is different. One's like a clicker, one's something you move. It's got one's another one's that you just kind of feel a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Every little side is different.
And you were telling me about the rings. I think when we first got them, you said yourself you were like in a meeting and. Do you remember this conversation?
Vaguely. This may be incriminating. Go ahead.
Oh no! You were telling me you were sitting with somebody and you were finding it reinforcing to mess with the rings and then just fidget, and then you realize, wow, this actually is a tool that works.
Yep.
So it's amazing, even what we don't realize. Like, some might consider that distracting if everybody has a fidget spinner. Okay, well. Is it really distracting if they're still engaging with their ears to what's being heard? And for me personally, with ADD, I actually do way better if I'm doodling or if I'm fidgeting with something, listening, than if I just have to sit there and listen. Because often if I'm just sitting there listening, I'm honestly staring into space and thinking about something else. So it allows me to be able to actually engage with my ears more.
Yeah, we've seen that even like when we do note cards. Used to, if kids are sitting there like going around and be like, oh, hey, they're not paying attention, but allowing them and having those space to any kid if they need to sit there and do something with their hand, I'd much rather have them going, oh, hey, I trust that they're still paying attention. A lot of times we're shocked at, I shouldn't be, but I'm always shocked at how much like, oh yeah, when you said that, and I'm like, I didn't even think you were paying attention, but they are sitting there and they're doodling, they're drawing, but they are actively listening. Just because a kid isn't looking at me and going, yes, teacher, teach me, like that, doesn't mean they're not listening.
And it's realizing that there's a lot of different learning techniques, and every kid's going to be a little bit unique in that. And some will learn better, or even back to visually and whatever not. But some are really hands-on, and so putting their hands on something will give them that automatic reinforcement in order for them to better listen to whatever's being spoken at that moment. So I love the idea of having a lot of sensory things available, and I want to talk a little bit about some of these things.
Absolutely.
And I work with 2 to 6 year olds, but a lot of these tools can be applied to all ages. But you do have to kind of think about what might be appropriate for one kid, may not be appropriate for another. But one I personally love is Kinetic Sand. It kind of gives you that feeling of being able to just mold something, but the way it falls apart, it's great. So even if you have some stations set up, you could do like a kinetic sand station. Fidget spinners are great in the actual, I want to say classroom, but whether it's the small group room or whether it's a large group room, it's great because in both of those settings, they can still listen to whatever is being heard. And then, having other automatic reinforcement things available. One technique we used at camp, the kid was experiencing anxiety. Did you want to tell a little bit more about this?
So this was I was just talking with James a minute ago, and I was like, hey, was this an instance of the behavior was just needing to feel something? And what it was that feeling, that automatic reinforcement. We had a student that was he was highly anxious regarding, I think it was after a game or something, and being a combination of homesickness, brand new environment, young kid. But then I remember watching you, and you were sitting there talking to him, and you asked him. There were two different instances actually with him. One, you asked him what his favorite smell was, and he was like, "Oh, hey, I like root beer." And when it was calming because it was that reinforcing. Now knowing this, I can look at it and going, "Oh, you were helping." It was calming him because the reinforcement of his smell of root beer, he liked that, and he could remember and smell that, and he would think of it, and it would calm him down. And then the other one was you were sitting there, it was when he was anxious, talking to him and pushing on his arm so that he felt that pressure. That was good pressure. I mean, even as I'm doing that now, I'm like, oh, that feels good.
It brings you to a different, what do I want to say? Almost an element like you're highly anxious, but now you're starting to feel
something other than anxiety.
The anxiety.
Yeah.
Which in this instance, with his behavior, it was actually two different motives were happening at the same time because we threw him completely out of his environment. So the homesickness part, probably wanting to escape things, but this can also be automatic reinforcement. So with the breathing aspect, we're teaching them how to breathe, which if you think about oxygen, it immediately is a reinforcing to the brain and it immediately calms you down. So with the smell, we're looking at, with kids who can communicate, what is your favorite smell? In this case, root beer. It was a great example of him being able to now breathe in that smell of root beer, even if it was in his imagination, and being able to take in that oxygen, which is that automatic reinforcement of being able to calm down.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is making sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense.
It's
making sense to my simple brain. I think it's good. Yeah.
But just looking for opportunities in the youth group to make them comfortable with the sensory aspect and understanding that we all have basic needs of thirst, making sure that, whatever the need is, it's available in a positive way. So,
and I would see these, one of the ways I interpret this, James, is I kind of process this automatic reinforcement kind of tied into the other three. I mean, kind of understanding it.
Well, they really all tie into each other.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and really more so to go, okay, if a kid is needing escape, being able to leverage this a positive reinforcement, or maybe even a redirect, that if they wanted to escape something, redirecting them to this thing of being kind of leveraging positive this automatic reinforcement to help kind of redirect them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it really does.
Yeah.
So you can use this in a lot of different contexts, and it's not just to prevent, the head banging. It's
right.
To execute positive behavior. So, if we're allowing them to feel more comfortable in their senses,
right.
Whether that's squeezing something, whether it's fidgeting with something, whether that's drawing, if we're allowing them to feel more comfortable, they won't want to escape.
Right.
They actually probably won't want as much attention because they're being reinforced in this sensory way.
Yeah.
So they really do all tie hand in hand. There is primary ones that we have to assess and make sure that we're truly understanding the motive. But if we can do that and understand the primary, then a lot of the secondary, which in this case is sensory, will come very hand in hand and play a large role. And I think we can really utilize this in youth groups by understanding that, yes, a fidget spinner may be mildly distracting, but the end goal is that now they're listening with their ears,
right?
Which the reward is what we're looking for.
Right. Yep.
So.
Yep, that's huge. And I think I'm sitting here, and again, it's all going back to the understanding the child, understanding the student, and going, what do they need? And being able to have resources and things available to them to meet those needs. And ultimately for us, it is not just looking at the behavior and going, oh, that needs to be fixed, but being able to ask the questions, okay, what? And I think that's what these last 4 episodes have been so helpful for me, and hopefully for you all, is that it's given me more filters to go instead of, okay, why are they doing this?
And why is so important, because ultimately we all have motives, and God made us each unique. So we all have different needs and levels of needs. And when we understand that, we come together better as a body, because we understand that we're all unique, we're all made for a purpose, and we can all learn from each other. And understanding the why brings all that together.
Awesome. So any other last thoughts?
I mean, I've really enjoyed going over the 4 behaviors. I think that it's rewarding to talk about these things. Just utilizing it, making sure that we understand that behavior in itself is not necessarily, like you said, you can't just look at that behavior. You got to look at the why. So, increasing positive behavior and will ultimately make for a better small group. It'll ultimately make for a better youth group. And if we can utilize these tools, I think it'll be awesome.
Kids be able to experience Jesus. I mean, not like, hey, go meet Jesus, but ultimately go, no, they can go, I know Jesus.
And they'll feel included because they'll notice that you are beginning to understand them, not just their outward actions. You'll understand who they are.
That's awesome. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this little 4-week little mini series on looking at behaviors. We appreciate you guys watching. Hope you've had a wonderful end of the year. It's crazy that 2019 is about to finish.
It is crazy.
But we're looking forward to a new year, so you guys will be able to catch us in 2020 when we launch back up. We've got a couple ideas. I think we were kicking around the idea, a little teaser here, James. Maybe remember this or not. I think we're going to kick off 2020 with looking at some specific, we just talked about a lot of them actually right here, but being able to get some hands-on, looking at some of the specific tools, whether it's specific like the rings, like some of the fidget things we've used, being able to have a hands-on look at them. So you can see them, experiment with them, so you can at least see us experiment with them, but maybe help you get some tools and leverage them in your ministry. So we're looking forward to the new year. Thanks again for watching the Table Ministry Podcast. We appreciate it. Praying for you, praying for your ministry, and we'll see you guys in the new year, the next episode.